I thought marriage was going to fix this, but it did not.
You know how many people I've heard say that?
Yeah.
Independently, like for a while, I thought that maybe, I think I heard Chris Stefanik say it once at a men's conference years ago. I think it was the Inferno conference in the spring when I was a teenager. I heard him say that. And I've heard other people say that, and I thought maybe they heard him say that, and it was just kind of but independently, I have heard so many men say that.
Because it's true. And what I say in my story and in what I write, that you believe that, but it actually makes it worse, not better.
Yeah, well, because now, there's a whole lot of reasons for that. I don't have time for today, but it's just so.
No, you didn't. No, I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Exact phrase. I thought my marriage would fix it. Like, so.
And David, you know what? The honeymoon period always ends. You guys are married. Everybody knows this. I mean, and there should be a beauty part to the honeymoon that develops in a different way. But you know what? The pornography reared its ugly head to me.
Welcome back to the podcast, Tell Them For Me by Road to Purity. We have a very special guest here, our very own Jonathon Fessenden. He is our media coordinator here at Road to Purity, and he is also founder of his own group, Missio Dei.
Yes.
Am I saying that right? Yes. Okay. Jonathon, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, of course. It's a nice good morning. A little bit of tech issues on my side today, but working everything out.
So I wanted to kind of share with everybody, if you can elaborate on a little bit of what brought you to Road to Purity. You know, you've been helping us out. You've been a phenomenal addition to the team. But we were just talking the other day about some of your convictions with the ministry and everything we have going on, and part of why you're so bought into the mission of Road to Purity. And I was wondering if you could share that with everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you. Most definitely. Road to Purity, honestly, is close to my heart, as you guys know, or at least you're finding out more and more. When I first met Dan, of course, we were in another ministry together and became friends and started talking. And I immediately gravitated to what he was doing, his story and everything, because although his story is a little bit different than mine, there was definitely the understanding, and I felt an immediate comfort with Dan. I felt like I was not alone in what's happened to me in my pornography battle. So I'll just briefly say I was married before I am divorced with an annulment through the church, but I don't know if a lot of this honestly was really put on the table during that. And it started, pornography or looking lustful behavior for me started at a very young age, David. I would probably say, I know even our survey, maybe between the ages of 7 to 9, I was exposed. So somewhere along that line, which I had a very early incident that probably sparked this and perverted it in a way. I wasn't sexually touched by anybody, but it was some neighborhood girls that started taking off their clothes at a very young age. And I think that led to a lot of things, a disruption there, which, as I was telling Dan too, I remember the technology side of things. Well, at our time, it would be watching the TV. And while I was watching a particular show, as I mentioned to Dan, Buck Rogers, I noticed that there was a lot of sexual innuendos. Now, I'm probably about 9-ish at this time watching that. Something was definitely being influenced or really put into my mind at that time that I was starting to look at women differently, unfortunately more in a utilitarian type of manner. I was looking at them more from my eyes and my a passion that I couldn't quite understand as a young man, hormones and all that stuff too that were
something to
use. Absolutely. And I confronted and talked with my brother about this too, by the way, who is similar in age. And he had said, surprisingly enough, that the Buck Rogers thing really kind of got him in a particular direction as well. Long story short, David, when high school came, I started really looking at pornography once the internet was really had taken shape. I had a computer in my bedroom. So unfortunately, instead of having to really go out and create a nurturing, healthy relationship with the opposite sex, I started going into, pornography. And last thing I'll say is I thought marriage was going to fix this, but it did not.
You know how many people I've heard say that?
Yeah.
Independently, like for a while, I thought that maybe, I think I heard Chris Stefanik say it once at a men's conference years ago. I think it was the Inferno conference in the spring when I was a teenager. I heard him say that. And I've heard other people say that, and I thought maybe they heard him say that, and it was just kind of but independently, I have heard so many men say that.
Because it's the truth. And I say in my story and in what I write, that you believe that, but it actually makes it worse, not better.
Yeah, well, because now, there's a whole lot of reasons for that. That'll be time for today. But it's just so...
No, you didn't. No, I'm really glad you mentioned that.
The exact phrase. I thought my marriage would fix it. Like, so
and David,
many,
you know what? The honeymoon period always ends. You guys are married. Everybody knows this. I mean, and there should be a beauty part to the honeymoon that develops in a different way. But you know what? The pornography reared its ugly head to me a few months in. All of a sudden, that behavior that I had done, which was a medication of falling to sleep, right? I'm just being honest. Oh, I'm going to look at a little pornography in order to fall asleep. Well, that started to creep in because I wasn't sleeping well in the evenings. And then I'd start tossing and turning 6 months into the relationship. And something was nipping me back into, well, I know what can get you to sleep. Well, here I am sneaking out of the bedroom midnight. It's just, it's a hard thing to say, by the way, very uncomfortable to say, but I want to say this because I want men to know out there they're not alone, and you can really get past this. With not
Thank
you,
so
but
much.
with the grace of Christ, you can get through this because it was not all me that got me.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that was definitely, for being vulnerable and sharing that with everybody. And I think part of it, the perception too, is everybody thinks it's just a sex problem.
Absolutely.
Really, at its root. I have a biological need, and until I'm married, I got to find it somewhere else. And I know I probably shouldn't, but I am. So when I get married, that'll go away because that need will be fulfilled by my wife, right?
It's
kind of the concept that
what they miss is I have a need to be loved.
Right. It's the need for intimacy and love. And even then, it's not
authentic.
Even then, there's an authentic intimacy that you're not getting from pornography, that you're craving from a real person, from the truth and beauty of what marriage should be. And then even deeper than that, there's a certain level of intimacy that even your wife can't provide. There's a love and intimacy that you need from God, that if that's not fulfilled, you will still always be yearning at some level for everything.
And it reminds me of the thing that I mention so often, but I think it's appropriate here, is the statement of, I say from G.K. Chesterton, it says, every man who stands at the doorstep of a brothel is looking for God. Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Well, Dan, what's really interesting, and David, I drank a lot of the secular ideology. And I thought, if you turn on a movie today, I laugh so hard now, but I was conditioned. I think a lot of us were conditioned in a way. Oh, you meet this, you watch a movie, right? Because we watch a lot of movies, and right away he meets this beautiful girl, and then they're right in bed together. And I'm like, that was actually how I was thinking in my 20s and even my 30s to a degree. Like, that was what we were kind of taught. How fast can you learn your virginity was what was going on in my high school, right? Like, you were totally an outcast if you were a male virgin, right? I'm sure you guys know this. At least where I was at school.
Well, it's 10 times worse today. I mean, Yeah.
It was bad
Yeah.
50 years
And
ago.
I felt so embarrassed being a virgin like at 16 that I would have did anything at that time just to lose it. And I'll tell you one last story here. I did lose it later in my at 16. And it was the worst experience I ever had in my life. I did not enjoy this, by the way. And I'll tell you one last thing. My best friend was there the night it happened. And I've never talked about this, but I'll say it now. But I actually took him in the bathroom and I was crying. I haven't quite figured out what exactly I was crying about. I mean, I know a little better now. I think Dan, I can see him thinking over there. He knows exactly what it is.
We could talk about that when we have time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, I guess.
Right. No. I mean, it's a similar story in a way. I was a freshman in college when I lost mine. And my roommate, who was a senior at the time, found out that I was. And it was his mission during that school year to get me taken care of.
Well,
that was it. That was everything. Parties, everything.
That was exactly what was going on with me too, Dan.
Succeeded.
All my friends were pushing me to be with this particular very nice young girl.
Yeah.
And it was just really bad. But I know we do have to probably wrap this particular interview up. But if there's one thing I think I would like to just emphasize from all this is men, we do, like Dan says, we have the need to be loved, and love is not this physical connection. I mean, that's only a part of it, but you have to have willing the good of the other person, right? And love yourself.
Yeah. And we're conditioned as men to say, yeah, I want to be loved, but I don't need it that much. I can function, I can do what I need to do. I'm a man. But the depth of which we need it and to be accepted by God and Christ, and it's missing how much it impacts our lives that we don't even recognize. Guys will ignore that or shut it down. They know it's not me. I'm not that way.
Well,
I can't accept it.
I think this is the original place that concept of toxic masculinity that everybody talks about today. That to me, that's the original. Like a lot of people, toxic masculinity on the more conservative side that's against a lot of the transgender movement. It's like there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. We need men, and I'm like, yes, we need men. We need manly men who there's a certain level of masculinity and what that means. But the concept of men don't cry and just stuff your emotions and get rid of it altogether. There's an aspect of like, yes, life can be hard, and you need to be able to take care of your family and provide and do the things you need to do given that emotion, but to completely ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist and pretend that you don't need love and pretend that you don't need intimacy and that you don't need to feel wanted or needed. That is the toxic part of that that still rings true.
And if you don't have it yourself, how can you give it to your spouse?
Yeah. I think there's an origin of that teaching men that for a long time that resulted in a lot of what we have today with the gender confusion. So you think, well, no, I want these things. But I guess
what's interesting too,
to a certain degree, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it seems like.
Well, what's interesting too is the group that pushes against toxic masculinity actually has a lot of the ideology that brings toxic masculinity. I mean, it's more of a leftist idea to be free with your sexuality. I mean, okay, well, what does that ultimately bring out in the end? There's a lot of problems there. So we just have to stay centered on the cross always.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's definitely, unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of time today, but glad we got to have a brief introduction to everybody to meet you on our team. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan.
Great to be part of the team.
We're very happy to have you with us at Road to Purity. Yep. And hopefully we'll have you maybe in person next time. I think we've got a lot more to talk about. It's a joy talking with you. I love our chats when we're in the
Thank
office.
You.
So
likewise.
Thanks for joining us, and
spend more time talking than
don't tell them.
That's your doing, Dan, not mine.
For anyone out there listening, yeah. For anyone out there listening, struggling with purity, please visit roadtopurity.com. We have tons of great free resources. We are also in the process of working on programs specifically for families, how to protect your children, how to prepare your children for an over-sexualized culture, healing, all of those types of things. Pay attention to that coming soon. We'll be launching a fundraising campaign for that coming up shortly. If anyone would like to participate in helping us develop that, you want to share your ideas on what you think is missing out there in the world, whether it's better theology of the body for your children, better resources for your family, you can take our survey now at roadtopurity.com/survey giveaway, and you can enter to win a free $100 gift card as well as some free books that we'll give you just for taking the survey. So please check that out. As always, Road to Purity is based solely on donations. So if anybody is liking the content that we're producing and any of our materials, please consider supporting us again at roadtopurity.com. Otherwise, we hope everybody has a very blessed day, and we wish you all the best.
Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Thanks.
Our YouTube channel, and our Substack channel, which I'm constantly running there. Go to our Substack at Road to Purity. Had to get that in there.
Yeah, we have an important plug from our media coordinator, so thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss in future episodes, shoot us an email at ask@roadtopurity.com. Don't forget to visit our website, roadtopurity.com, for all our free resources and affordable programs to help men and women who are looking to grow in sexual purity. We rely on donations to keep doing what we do, so if you'd like to support Road to Purity, please consider donating at roadtopurity.com/donate. Thanks again for your support. God bless.